everyone, Noel here. I'm a small-time beekeeper, but I also like to catch swarms, and I also use a bee vacuum when I'm doing cutouts. Now, when I first started, I liked the idea of a vac, of a bucket vac. These are really handy. There's lots of plans on YouTube for these. I just basically use a chlorine bucket, clean it out really well, and then I came down to building the cage that I would put into the bucket. That took me a lot of time. And it's heavy. This thing's got to weigh 6 or 7 pounds before I've got bees in it. And I'm not a handy guy. I'm not handy with tools. I just like bees. So to build this thing meant cutting out circles, putting in hatch doors, reinforcing the sides with staves, putting in screen, inserting a tube. It was a lot of work. For me, at least 4 hours. Kind of embarrassing, but it's true. Now, I was thinking, man, I need more than one of these because I might get a phone call and there might be 3 swarms I need to get or a couple of cutouts in a day that I need to do. So what do? I drive a Prius. I can't put 3 or 4 or 5 of these into a Prius. So my brain got spinning, which is kind of dangerous anyway. And this is what I came up with. Instead of this, I've replaced this whole contraption, other than the lid, with this. Instead of 6 or 7 pounds, this weighs just a few ounces. And it's so easy to build. If it wasn't easy to build, I couldn't have done it. I want to show you how you can replace this. You can have this instead, only a few ounces, and you can have 4, 5, 6, 7 in your car or with your bee things at all times, and you'll always have one on hand. And they're very, very inexpensive to build as well. All you're going to need for this build is a few simple things. You're going to need a mesh laundry bag. Now, the one I'm using for this demonstration was from Walmart. It was like less than $2. There are heavier ones out there, and I would probably recommend that you get a heavier mesh bag than this one here. I believe this one says that it's 24 by 36 inches. 24 wide by 36, which is just about right for my bucket. It's a little bit big, but that's okay because we're going to deal with the extra material that we have later. So you're going to need one mesh bag, and you're going to need 6 zip ties, just 6 zip ties, and the frame. The frame for your mesh bag is going to be plastic garden fencing. Now, you can buy this almost anywhere. They usually come in 2-foot or 4-foot lengths, and a 2-foot will work just as well as a 4-foot. It just depends on how many you want to build. I just happen to have this up in the rafters. It was a 4-footer, and I can actually get probably about 40 of these cages if I could use them in a lifetime out of just one roll of this 4-foot material. So, how do we do this? Well, let's see. You've got 2 tools as well. You've got, remember, 5 zip ties, 1 mesh laundry bag, and a roll of plastic garden fencing. They also make the orange construction fencing that you see like at windbreaks around construction sites. You could probably use that as well, but I haven't tried it. The 2 tools that you're going to need, there's a lot of them, a pair of scissors, and a sewing tape. This just works fast and it's easy, and I chose this and I had it on hand, but you don't actually even need a tape. You can just get creative. And one thing before we start, remember that you may want to cut a little bit extra to start on your first one, just to get it right, because you really can't make a mistake if you go too big. You can always trim it down. So let's get started. We're gonna go ahead and open up that mesh bag. Okay. So we have the mesh bag. And that's all ready to go. And we're going to need to measure the size of the cage, the frame that we're going to use. To do that, all you're going to need to do is take your bee vac bucket, and you're going to measure with your sewing tape around the base. And so I'm going to measure around the base, and I have 33.5 inches. So, you know, because you've got a little bit of material going around the outside, let's call it 33 inches. It's what I'm going to need. That's how big around it's the width it's going to be. Now I'm going to have to measure out how tall do I want it. Now that we got 33 around, how tall do we want this? So we're going to take our tape upwards. Well, actually, you can do it on the outside of the bucket from the bottom. Once you get to just inside the bottom edge of the bucket to the rim where it comes down tight. And that's right here, this rib here. And I've got 17 inches. So I've got 33 by 17. Easy peasy. Now remember, if you cut it a little bit larger, that's fine too, because you can always trim it down. And the beautiful thing about this, not only is it lightweight, but once you put the lid on, this will move. This will move. So even if you've got it just a hair too big, it's not going to be tragic. The other thing is, let's say when I'm doing a removal, like a cutout, and I'm vacuuming up bees, one of the things during the summer especially that I'm always concerned about is overheated bees. Now, these cages are fine. They've got a lot of, it's got a lot of mesh on it, a lot of metal mesh, and but I also have a lot of wood, so there's less cooling space for the bees. With this, you have cooling space in every direction. So when I'm done with a cutout, and this is full of bees, I just pulled out one the other day. A friend of mine and I were doing one, and we pulled out 7 to 9 pounds of bees. And so it was heavy, and they were clustered in the middle, and it was a warm day. So I just hung this up on a nail where we were working, and I spritzed it with a water bottle, and there was a little breeze, kept the bees nice and cool, had very, very few losses on the bees. So let's get back to this, 17 by 33 inches. So we're going to take our roll to begin. Just move everything out of the way here. We're going to take our row of plastic garden fencing, and we're going to go up 17 inches. So that's what we're going to do here. One-handed is not so easy, but that's all right. I'm going to hold it to the bottom. 17 brings me right to this square here. So what I'm going to do is I want to keep a full square. I don't want to have any rough edges, because I don't want anything for that. I don't want anything for this mesh to hang up on. So we're going to go to a full square that's 17 inches, and I'm going to start cutting off along the side. Now I like to go at a small angle, so I get it very close and cut straight. That way there's no rough edges. I measured 17 down, I started cutting, and I measured this way to 33 inches, and so I'm going to cut that off, and then we'll have one single piece with which to work. So now we have our piece, 17 by 33. Now all we have to do is join it together at the ends. So I'm going to use my zip tie. I like to wrap mine around. I like to double it over. I get a little bit more out of it that way. It gives it a little bit more of it cinches it up a little bit stiffer that way. So I just wrap it around through the ends twice. And then, as long as the ends are lined up on the edge of the cage, this is what we call the cage. See, we're going to match up the edge. Going to go through the last 2 squares, and we're just going to tighten that up. So that's that. We're going to do it on the other side. Then we're going to go up the middle, 1, 2, and then 1 on the end here. So that'll be a total of 4 of these zip ties. I'll catch you when I'm done with that. Okay, so I've already attached the zip ties. Now all we have to do is trim them off. That's trim them off right to the edge of the lock on the zip tie itself. And that way, the closer that you get it, the less snagging that you'll have taking place. And so what do we have here? We have a cage, basically just a tube of plastic garden fencing. What's next? It couldn't be easier. What we're going to do is we are going to take the mesh bag. We're going to go ahead and open it up. And what I like to do, just to make it simpler, is I'm going to stick it in the bucket all the way down. You can just do it freehand, but I'm going to use the bucket as a holding tool. The best thing to do actually is to fold this up. Just roll it or fold it up and stick it down into the bottom of the bucket, right down the middle. You want to get into the middle of that mesh bag. So I've got it in there, and now I'm just going to open it up. Just going to open that up. Wow, that fits great. That fits terrific. We have maximum amount of bee space in there, and that part's done. But let me show you one more thing. We're going to zip tie that bottom together, but I might do that a little bit later once I get it on the tube here. Now, one thing I did on my bee vac is my bee intake tube, which is on the top of my design, is I took a little PVC fitting, and I just cut out a ring so I could slide it down. I cut off the end of a 90 degree. I just took it down about a third of an inch, and I cut it with a saw, and then I put a little of that hot glue. I slid it up, hot glued it in place, and that gives a little support for that. So when I put this down over the top, it's going to have something to rest on or to attach to. So here we go. I'm just going to tighten that up. That's down in the middle, and all I have to do is slide it down, pull it tight, and there you have it. It's right there. Now that I have this there, we are going to use that other zip tie. So we're going to turn this down. We've got a pretty good idea of the size, the amount of space we're going to use. We don't want to pull it too tight. If you pull it too tight, you're going to pull the sides in like this. That's not what we want to do. We want to get maximum bee space in there, maximum cage space. And so we're just going to bring this up loosely. We're going to cup it. It looks like it's, stretch it around a little bit, make sure that it's as round as you can. And take your zip tie once you have that, and just tie it around. And zip it. Now, some people might want to trim off the bottom of the bag. Personally, I don't, because I can't go back and readjust later if for some reason this doesn't work out. So I leave the bottom on, and let me trim that off here for a second. And I'm just going to leave this excess bag on the bottom, and that'll make for a softer landing. Remember, it's all about the bees, and so those bees aren't hitting a hard bottom of a cage when they're going in with the bee vac. They're going to, this really nice padded netting is going to soften that drop for them. And so there you have it. We've got it set up here. Let me just adjust this for a second. I'm going to bring it up over the top of that little ridge I have there. And I'm going to cinch that off. It's not kind of hard one-handed. There, we got it, okay. And then that's it. That is your bee vac cage right there. And all you're going to do is drop it in the bucket, hook up your hoses, drop it in the bucket, make sure your cinch is in there as well. You're just going to tighten it up. And when you're done vacuuming up your bees, just like you normally would, you're going to take the top off. Now, pretend this is full of bees, and there could be pounds of bees in here. And that's why I suggest getting a medium or a heavyweight, not a lightweight mesh bag with that little cinch there. And then all you have to do is pull that off. It's got the bees in it right now. Pull it off. Bring the cinch down. Your bees are captured. You can do whatever you want with them. You can hang them up so you can mist them. You can put them in the car. I'm going to put a bar up across the back of my car and just like hang them. So if the nice air conditioning gets them. That was so easy. And you know what this cost? I figured it out with this mesh bag. And like I said, I'd probably go with a heavier one. This cost less than $3. So, I don't know if I'm rocking your world or not, but this really worked for me. The other nice thing about this, and I forgot to mention it, and I will right now, is won't this make a wonderful swarm catcher. You just have this thing all ready to go in your car, and all you do is you take this baby, it's already there. You just put it up under that branch or whatever that thing the bees are hanging from, that swarm, and you just hang it under there and you shake those bad boys in. You bring up the top, you pull on the cinch, and you're walking away in less than a minute with a bag full of bees. I think you could make this a little bit even easier than I did. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to post them. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.